I'm Robert, and this is my retreat.
Georgian Bay's natural beauty is legend the world over. But you will also find a different kind of beauty here, a collection of world-class sculptures. This is the beloved getaway of artist Robert Murray, here on Point O'Barrow, east of the Bruce Peninsula.
This is called Lookout Island. It's the last major island out in this archipelago from Point O'Barrow.
It's not a surprise that this sculptor is attracted to the iconic beauty of the region. It's bold and dramatic, kind of like his art. Robert Murray creates colorful, abstract sculptures that dot the world landscape. He's received the Order of Canada. Major galleries display his work, like the Art Gallery of Ontario, the National Gallery of Canada, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
One of the things that people are kind of surprised by, since my sculptures always has been abstract, ideally I like to imagine it being installed in an environment like this.
He chooses his cottage as the place to conceptualize his art. He's been doing that since 1962.
I often photograph the models right around here on these rocks, and I like the contrast, you know, these very organic looking forms of the rocks and how rugged and exposed they are. I like this environment. I mean, I'm passionate about this environment, so it's been wonderful to have opportunities up here to build good-sized pieces for a number of people. Clearly,
he means what he says. Why else would he make the epic journey here each year, all the way from Pennsylvania?
It's a 14-hour drive, and it was 5.7 hours flying time in the plane, so I prefer the latter. I think this is the ideal place to have an airplane, and you know, I use it almost every day. It's flyable up here. I'm not into windsurfing or any of that stuff. When I want to get out and see the country, I jump in the airplane.
Robert teaches visual arts in New York, but it's here at his retreat where he draws true inspiration. To see his work, the locals need only sail by. But what do they make of it?
God knows. Occasionally, people will be quite complimentary. Most of the time, they're just kind of puzzled. The piece that I built that sort of commemorates the original barrel, you know, how Point O'Barrow got its name. What the early fishermen did, when there was no lighthouse and no range light, is that they took a barrel and they took one or two staves out of one side of it, and the first guy ashore lit a lantern and put it inside there. I don't know that most people will recognize it, but I mean, it's a cylinder and a partial cylinder and a cedar tripod, the piece. But anyway, that's what its origins were.
Robert has spent years soaking in the natural beauty of the area. He then pays it forward in the form of his sculpture. As for the cottage itself, for someone this creative, no ordinary log cabin would do.
It would be nice to have a big old fishing lodge, I suppose. But what I like about these things is that they're kind of high-tech and not that hard to put up. It's aluminum, marine aluminum, and it's like an assembly kit, just a million bolts that hold it all together. So this is the first sleeping cabin. We wanted it close by because when my daughters were just little babies and we could put them to bed, we could hear them. This one's got a fireplace in it, so in the spring and fall, you can stay nice and toasty warm there. And then this is my daughter's bunkhouse, or now my grandkids' bunkhouse, or whoever is up at any particular time.
To his fans, Robert's art is right on the money, but his cottage is strictly off the grid.
We could have hydro on this island, but I chose not to. I didn't want my kids watching television all summer, which is what some people do up here.
The artist is traditional in other ways too, including shelter. One of his projects honors a native tradition and a childhood dream.
These are the poles for our teepee. I haven't had time to put it up yet. I always tell people it's like the train set I bought for my daughters when they were young. It was the train set I never had, and I think the teepee's a little bit that way. It was supposed to be for the girls, and everybody winks and says, yeah, well, it's actually Dad's teepee. You're now in my studio. It got built in one summer, at the end of summer, so I work here, I paint here, or I paint outside.
When it comes to his art, this signature piece makes for an excellent calling card. It's called Ferris, and it's been here since 1963.
It's kind of a nice dramatic location for it, I guess. One of the things that this piece does is it relates to the horizon and where the water line bisects it. And it's kind of the sky above and the rock below and the water in between. And this thing, to some extent, sort of frames those basic elements of the Georgian Bay. So this piece is really tied to this environment. Can I tell you I'm proud of it? I guess I'm proud of it.
This artist is inspired by Georgian Bay's supernatural beauty. These remote shores give him the time and quiet to create.
You know, the cabin makes it possible for me to live here. The sculpture came about because I live here.